Hi, I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Thursday, July the 9th. News from Arkansas. The big news of the day out of the Capitol is that the State Board of Education more or less capitulated to Governor Asa Hutchinson and the wishes of the legislature and voted 4-2 to junk the PARCC test for assessing student performance and switch to the ACT Aspire test. Very few people use this new test, and it means it's going to be impossible to compare scores from last year and the coming year to see how students have progressed because the tests are different. But the PARCC test, which is geared to the now unpopular Common Core curriculum, has fallen out of favor. Asa Hutchinson has 3 new members on the State Board of Education. They and one other person voted with him, but it was going to be a win for him regardless because the legislature wasn't going to allow a rule to go through that they didn't like. This is a lot of education bureaucraties. The main question is are our children learning? And it's going to really be at least another year before we have any indication that we can rely on to know whether that's true. News from the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals in St. Louis again today. They have rejected the state's appeal to have the entire court hear an appeal of the ruling that struck down the state law banning most abortions after 12 weeks of pregnancy. This was a foregone conclusion. It will cost the state still more legal fees. And Attorney General Leslie Rutledge still won't say that she won't appeal this case to the U.S. Supreme Court, where it's another sure loser, but it's a winner politically with some people, so perhaps she'll try one more appeal. The Arkansas Hospital Association announced today that the results of 2014 are in on the private option expansion of Medicaid under Obamacare, and it was a rousing success for hospitals. The number of uninsured patients they admitted dropped by 50%. The amount of money spent by hospitals on uncompensated care dropped by 50%. This is all very good news. It helps absorb some rate cuts in the Medicare program. This, of course, is a big tout to continue the private option Medicaid expansion. That's going to be the big fight in the legislature next year. 4 members of the Arkansas congressional delegation, all but Steve Womack and Rick Crawford, joined the governor and the county judge in opposing the Quapaw tribe's ability to turn its land in Pulaski County into federal trust land where the tribe would have autonomy over its use. The white men seem to know better than the Indians what to do with their land. The congressman wrote a really laughable letter that said that it would be better for the state to control safety issues by controlling this land rather than letting the tribe do it. This land is smack in the middle of a big industrial park with river barges nearby and rail cars. Any use of land there is proper. It's laughable to think that this is a safety issue. This is about protecting the existing monopoly casinos in Arkansas from the potential, and it's only a potential, future competition from the Quapaw tribe. They say they have no plans for casino now. Political forces want to make sure they're never able to do that. The Arkansas Civil Liberties Union affiliate in Arkansas announced today that it had joined others in calling the U.S. Justice Department to do an intensive, what they call pattern and practice review of the Little Rock Police Department use of force. There have just been too many cases over the years where force has been used and there's been really no reasonable investigation or action in cases where force was misused. They want a study done. It remains to be seen if the Attorney General will call for one. I think it'd be a good idea. Interesting study released today in the Washington Post. $1 in Arkansas goes farther than any state in the country except Mississippi. That is, you get good buying power with your dollar here. We're cheap. We work cheap. Housing is cheap. Everything's cheap. So when we start giving our money away to people like Lockheed Martin, remember they get a pretty good deal coming to do business here in the first place. Another person, at least the 5th, has been indicted for defrauding the Department of Human Services summer food program for poor children financed by the USDA. He inflated the number of kids he served to get hundreds of thousands of dollars of money he didn't deserve. The Attorney General of Arkansas, Leslie Rutledge, announced today a metal theft prevention program. She's going to even send some people undercover to make sure scrap yards are properly registering scrap metal sales. Apparently Arkansas is 5th in the country in claims for metal theft. Who knew we could be a leader in something like this? Catching up on some news last night that happened after our taping yesterday. The Little Rock Tech Park Board voted last night to go into debt, unbelievably to go into debt, to borrow money to buy some office buildings downtown that they hope they'll rent to new tech businesses. I don't think it's a wise matter for the city of Little Rock to get into the real estate business, particularly through borrowing. This won't pledge taxpayer money, it'll pledge rent receipts, but if the thing craters and the scheme doesn't work out, somebody's going to be holding the bag, taxpayers in one form or another. You can count on that. The Van Buren clerk yesterday sent out an impassioned email saying she was not going to comply with the U.S. Supreme Court ruling on same-sex marriage. She wouldn't issue a marriage license to same-sex couples. She wouldn't allow anybody in her office to do so either. She had some backing from a right-wing religious group in Texas that was going to defend her in court. She got some legal advice from an Arkansas lawyer and backed off later yesterday and said, okay, she doesn't like it, but she'll issue them anyway. Well, thank goodness the rule of law stands, however briefly, in Arkansas. And finally, for reading, be sure you pick up this week's The Arkansas Times or check it online. Great new cover story on our continuing investigation of child welfare issues in Arkansas. This one is about the absolute terrible job Arkansas is doing serving foster children. A heartbreaking story of a children who's been in 19 schools, multiple homes, because we can't find a place to put all the kids we have that need help. Read it, and then maybe if you can call your legislator and do something about it, try that too. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.